It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. Our first round for 2024. It's a Daytona 200 weekend. Mission King of the Baggers on deck for our second race of the weekend from Daytona International Speedway right here in Daytona Beach, Florida. Well, hello everyone and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, we were treated to an unbelievable race with 18 thousandths of a second margin of victory in Mission King of the Baggers.
Yeah, kind of what we expected. We got the two factory teams, Harley-Davidson and Indian, were pushing hard yesterday, and of course Hayden Gillum, our defending champion, was in the mix as well. As you see the highlights from yesterday, it was Herfoss and Tyler O'Hara getting the jump on the field. You see Hayden Gillum, he went up underneath Rispoli and Kyle Wyman into the International Horseshoe on the first lap. Factory Harley's had some speed. As you see Herfoss there, he dives up underneath Kyle Wyman in the same exact spot. And it was this run though, Herfoss slowed the bike down, hoping to be able to redraft Kyle Wyman to the line. Wasn't gonna work. Wyman beats him on that Factory Harley-Davidson by that close margin to get his first win of the year.
So for the Australian Troy Herfoss, three-time Superbike champ in here now. He went to school. He tried to park him in the chicane. It didn't quite work out, but I see Troy Herfoss doing a lot better today.
Well, the thing is, it's his first time here, and you heard him in his interview afterwards. He got advice from Pete Doyle, who was Matt Mladen's crew chief. He even got advice from Matt Mladen himself on some things you can do here on the run to the flag. He tried something and it didn't work, but he'll put that in his pocket for today and learn from that.
Here's Daytona International Speedway. Jason, it is, of course, 31-degree banking at its peak. Pretty incredible.
It's an iconic place if you've never been here, Greg. We do something a little bit different. We start on pit lane. That's actually the flattest part of the track. You roll out through turn one that first time. So for a guy like Troy Herfoss that's never been here before, that was new to him as well. Into that first International Horseshoe, through that fast left-hand kink into the second horseshoe, and then the run around that bank and through that chicane. On the exit of the chicane is where you got to make your race strategies, because that's what's going to determine where you are all the way at the finish line in this tri-oval.
Can't wait to see what Mission King of the Baggers Race 2 has in store for us. Can this guy, the 33, pull off his second in a row? It was only 18 thousandths yesterday.
As we now have bikes fired, Roger, you take a look at everybody sitting there. What are your expectations?
I think just kind of more of yesterday, but I think we might see a couple more guys in this battle. If Hayden Gillum doesn't make that mistake he made yesterday, I think he can be in there. And Tyler O'Hara crashing on that last lap, I think he could, be a guy to have to deal with coming out of that chicane. And, James Rispoli was close yesterday, but it kind of looks like he's been struggling a little bit this weekend, trying to get the power to the ground. So it's going to see if he can improve on that.
And they're now underway for this warm-up lap, and it's going to be a 6-lap race. I want to remind you now, as you see that graphic up on the screen, that betting is now available for MotoAmerica fans. You can go to nxbets.com/playma, and for more information, you can also visit MotoAmerica.com. Go ahead and get your phone out, and you can scan that QR code now for more information as well. But it's only 6 laps, Roger, and it's anybody's game right now. You need to have the good start, but you've got to be ready to push right from the beginning.
It's going to go so quick, especially with 6 laps in the battle, and you're right, it's going to go so quick. And the best thing that you have to do, and you really got to focus those first couple laps, is if you're one of those guys that's barely hanging on to the lead group, do not lose that draft.
Can't lose the draft, and you can't lose sight of the goal. It's only a 6-lap race. We're going to step away, Roger, and I send it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
Mission King of the Baggers coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. By Mission Foods, the world's leading brand for tortillas and wraps. And by Drag Specialties, an industry-leading distributor of aftermarket parts and accessories for Harley-Davidson and custom V-twin motorcycles.
Mission King of the Baggers, race number 2. Getting ready to get started here, and boy, Jason, let's take a look at the starting grid, because the track's dry, but it wasn't exactly dry a moment ago, was it?
Yeah, about 30 minutes ago, we had a little cell come over. As Troy Herfoss is going to start from pole position with yesterday's winner, Kyle Wyman, right next to him. Then Tyler O'Hara, Rispoli, Hayden Gillum, and Kyle Onsword. Outside of row 2, Travis Wyman, then Rocco Landers, Jake Lewis, Bobby Fong, Corey West, and Shane Narbonne. Max Flinder, Jesse Janisch, Zach Schumacher, Gunnar Roulette, and Ruben Chaus is going to be just outside row 6.
Let's get down to the third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa.
Guys, it is the second Mission King of the Baggers race of the weekend, but it's the second race of the day for two of our bagger racers, Bobby Fong and Hayden Gillum both. And while I won't spoil the results for you, I can say each of them went the full 200-mile, 57-lap race distance. I checked in with both of them. Hayden was replenishing, eating some snacks. He said it was a little bit harder to race the 200 than last year, but he's feeling ready to go. Bobby Fong himself feeling pretty sore, trying not to think about it, and he said it'll take him just this warm-up lap and sighting lap to get up to speed where he needs to be.
Oh, crazy, man. I mean, your brain is programmed to race a super sport machine. Now you're going to a 620-pound Mission King of the Bagger machine. Has got to be a transition.
It's a slight difference, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. And the first run down into that chicane, they will definitely be able to feel the weight of these bikes and the speed. And we see somebody down there on pit lane that might not get to start. We'll get an idea who that is in a minute.
And make sure you check us out on MotoAmerica Live Plus, where you can always find live race action. MotoAmerica Live Plus. 6-lap affair for Mission King of the Baggers race number 2 as the grid is set. And so here we go, and we have those red lights turn on. Revs are going up. When they go off, we're rolling. Here we go, the mad dash to turn number 1, a left-hander at the end of this straight. And it looks like it's going to be Herfoss that might lead us in, although Kyle Wyman had a shot at it. Oh, it's going to be the 29 of Tyler O'Hara, so we're led by a couple of factory Indian motorcycles for the moment.
This is a lot like what we saw yesterday, but it looked like a Harley slid into second there. That's going to be Wyman. Hayden Gillum doing what he did yesterday, showing a lot of good braking going into the International Horseshoe, so he was trying to get up to third. Bobby Fong is out, so the early report from Hannah there that Bobby Fong and Hayden Gillum both just finished that 200-miler. Such a bummer to see Bobby out. So one of our early title contenders out of the race, Greg, before it even starts.
Yeah, this is a points-paying round. Our second race of the season of 18 on deck for 2024 for Mission King of the Baggers, the most we have had in a season. The Australian 3-time Superbike champ, Troy Herfoss, trying to make a break early on that S&S Indian motorcycle. That is an Indian Challenger, but the factory Harley-Davidson of Kyle Wyman, winner from yesterday, as we saw these two go all the way to the line on an 1800th of a second victory here at Daytona yesterday.
They already have a small gap, and Kyle's going to draft back past that Indian maybe as they go down the back straightaway. He sits up and gets to the inside of Herfoss. Will be leading this paint here. I was a little bit worried about it because of the little cell that we had come over here about 30 minutes ago. See that?
Yep.
That is going to probably be just a little bit of water on top of that paint possibly. And those guys got to be a little bit careful going over that. Obviously the sun is out now, but it did sprinkle hard enough to where some precipitation might have got on that paint.
Yeah, and that might alter the line through the chicane as Herfoss drafts and pass for a lead change for a split second, but Wyman gets it back, and now it's the hard braking into turn number 1. Who's going to have the position?
You're going to see they cut over here. Kyle gets it turned really sharp, and he's going to go back over that paint. And looked like it got a little bit loose, to be fair, Greg, before he touched it. But I wasn't worried about it before we started as he jumps through the dirt, then wheelies. And it looked like there was going to be about 4 guys back up there as they came across the line. The other 2 guys in O'Hara and Rispoli had closed the gap with Gillum right behind him.
And that draft allowed the 3 behind to catch up. So Herfoss on the 17, 29 is O'Hara, 43 is Rispoli, 33 Kyle Wyman, and of course your number 1 plate, Hayden Gillum, the 2023 Mission King of the Baggers champion.
Rispoli goes up underneath O'Hara, and you got to think about something too, Greg, the room that these guys have to give each other. It's not like a small sport bike that you're stuffing up the inside. You got to take into consideration, you got the bags on the back that you got to wait to pass you before you tip in, Hannah.
Talking to James Rispoli, he said today is going to be a different race for sure, and it was his goal to really make sure he's stuck with his front group and not let these front runners get away, and he's right in there, to say the least. He made some changes this morning, and it gave him a lot of confidence to improve drive, especially out of 6, and it was feeling a lot better from the few laps he was able to get in warm-up. We'll see how it plays out as this race unfolds.
Well, for the moment, he takes over the lead, does hog Spoli. He goes around Herfoss, who's in second. Kyle Wyman able to get around O'Hara. And there's Hayden Gillum.
How about Onsarg and Landers kind of closing in on the back of these guys too, Greg? If you just look at the back of that shot, Onsarg and Rocco Landers has done a really nice job of kind of putting themselves back into this race.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a drafting partner. As down to the bottom goes Herfoss, and that creates a little bit of wheel spin and instability on the bike as Wyman goes to the lead. But here comes the 29 of Tyler O'Hara. He gets it slowed down into turn number 1, and Herfoss looking for a little bit of room on the inside of Rispoli. Rispoli slamming the door shut.
Yeah, and you can, I know for O'Hara, he is hungry to win, and I talked to him a couple times over the course of the weekend as Herfoss goes down the inside of Rispoli there in the horseshoe. He's shown a lot of good pace into there as well. Onsorg is literally on the back of these guys now, and I'm looking back there to see where Rocco is, because Rocco was there as well, Greg, but it looks like he's maybe fallen back just a little bit.
Kyle Onsorg is 78, fastest lap of the race so far, 151.058. Of course, Onsorg, for Indian Motorcycles, one of the engineers, so fast in his own right. Does a little bit of development on the motorcycles for the 78. Hey everybody, betting is now available for MotoAmerica fans. Go to nxtbets.com/playma. For more information, visit MotoAmerica.com to learn how to bet on MotoAmerica.
Yeah, Greg, it looks like Rocco's had maybe a problem. Look at that, Greg, minute 9. So Rocco either went straight in turn 1, something happened to him because he's some 10 seconds slower than the guys. So I think he might have gone straight into turn 1. We're getting reports that that is the case. So for, somebody just went through the dirt back there in 5th and 6th. A little bit out of our shot there. I saw somebody go through the dirt and stand the other rider up. So you're going to have a 4-rider battle at the front now, and I think 5th and 6th are going to be further back.
Yeah, it was Hayden Gillim, the report we're getting. So he probably would have affected Onsorg on that one because they were back there.
Yep.
So we'll see if third place with Rispoli trying to use that draft and pass and close that gap into turn number 1 on the factory bike. Left part of your screen, Jay, you saw it?
Look at Gillim. He's dead sideways going in there, and he's going to pick the bike up. He's going to go through the grass, through the dirt, and poor Onsorg had nowhere to go. But we saw Onsorg come across the line. Here's a better look at it. Gillim across there, and Onsorg has to just check up a little bit and see that gap. Just like that, there's a gap that gets a little bit created. So Gillim and Onsorg are going to have to work together to catch back up to the front 4. That's going to be a tough order. We'll keep an eye on their lap times. 51's low for the leaders so far.
All right, messing about in the infield for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They can get onto the banking and work together. They'll close that gap to Tyler O'Hara. We got 2.5 laps to go in this Mission King of the Baggers race. Jay, you mentioned it. O'Hara just so hungry to win as Wyman's going to go up the inside. Let's see if that affects his drive onto the banking. It's a long run, and you can see, wow, Wyman just leaving all kinds of black marks on the asphalt as he drives on and up. So those are the two. Onsorg ahead of Hayden Gillim after Gillim's ride through the grass.
Gillim really needs Onsorg right now there. He needs him there to be able to draft and try to draft his way back up to that front. You can see those two just off the back there. I'm really impressed with Tyler O'Hara, what I'm seeing right now. He was pretty confident going into this race after speaking with him this morning. He had a long wait though, didn't he, Greg? Because they practiced this morning for their warm-up, and they are at the end of the day here at Daytona as Kyle Wyman gets a great run through the chicane.
Dude, that all started on the flip on the right-hander through the chicane. Wyman is so good through the chicane.
It is amazing how quick Kyle gets that bagger to full lean angle in the middle of that, and both Rispoli and Herfoss taking advantage of the two in front. Look at this, we got 3 wide as they come across start-finish line, and it's going to be Rispoli moving up into 2nd as O'Hara outbreaks everybody down into turn 1.
Boy, if that was the finish, Herfoss would have won that one by 0.005 of a second. That's how close it was. It was dead even between Herfoss and Rispoli coming across the line, and Kyle Wyman was 0.005 of a second. But Hayden Gillim goes fastest at a 150.978 behind him. Sets the fastest lap of the race so far, Hannah.
When I talked to Troy Herfoss a little bit earlier, you know, he's certainly making an impact on this paddock in his debut weekend. I asked him how it was going, and aside from the 2 podiums that we saw him on yesterday, he said he's having so much fun, that all of the teams have been really welcoming. He settled right into his new Indian Factory Racing team, and all of the fans from MotoAmerica have just been really welcoming and really excited to come up and be able to meet the racers in person.
And right now, he's starting to check out.
And O'Hara, I'm not sure what happened. So O'Hara is back in 4th, but he's lost contact with these guys. So 57.6 for Herfoss, first split, but O'Hara was almost 3 seconds off of that through the infield. So we'll have to keep an eye on him and see if there was a problem with the 29. But you're right, Greg. Herfoss has made the break right now, and he's running away from these guys. You can see Hayden Gillum has O'Hara in his sights now. Two Harleys are backing it in to the chicane, and to your point, it does look like Kyle makes up a lot of ground in the middle of that chicane, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. For the short amount of time you're going through that chicane, Kyle is able to make up, and look how close he is. I mean, I thought that Rispoli might latch onto the back of Kyle Wyman to help him out, but Kyle doesn't seem to need any help at all through the chicane and on this banking, but Wyman needs just a little bit of a sniff because
he's got it.
Yeah.
He's got the sniff, and we got white flag out. White flag is out as they come across the line now, and it's really that second split of Wyman that did it for him there. Minute 50.2. Herfoss goes minute 50 flat for the fastest lap of the race.
Wow.
But Wyman is there, isn't he? Yeah, he's right there. Yep.
Wyman answers with a 50.2, so they're pretty even right now. And for Herfoss, did he learn his lesson yesterday? He's going to know that Kyle's back there, whether he looks over his shoulder or hears the thundering Harley Davidson. There's the look, so he knows that the 33 is there. The question is he going to try the same strategy and park him in the chicane or not?
What did he learn, right? What did he learn from yesterday? Does he let Kyle try to go by before? But look how quick Herfoss is through the infield part of this. As good as Wyman is in the chicane, Herfoss is almost a little bit better through here as he has another look over his shoulder. And I think that there's part of this with Troy where he's got a lot of information. I feel like he's probably thought that these other guys have been playing games and he doesn't want to get caught out, and it hasn't worked in his favor a couple of times. But right now he's got a nice gap as he goes 57.5, half a second quicker than Wyman through the infield section here at Daytona. And right now, if he had any mirrors, he'd see that he's got a nice big gap.
And there's not enough chicane for Kyle Wyman, who's clearly faster in that section, to really make a dent in this, as Troy Herfoss needs this to be super clean. Slides it a little bit going in.
He made a mistake.
He did. He looks over his shoulder.
That's too bad. That's too bad that he did that again.
He tries to park him again, but Kyle Wyman's got the run on it. So Herfoss too deep into the chicane, has a look over his shoulder. Now for Herfoss, he's got to come off that banking as soon as possible.
He had the race won. He literally had the race won. He did all the work in the infield, and then he made a big mistake in the chicane again.
Kyle Wyman head down, full throttle, trying to hold off the advances of Troy Herfoss. To the line he goes, and Kyle Wyman ends up doing the double, and a heartbreak for Herfoss on the last lap, who
Troy
just couldn't get those last couple feet of the chicane dialed in on the way in. And Jay Collin.
He's going to watch this back later on and just want to look, he gets in here, he gets in nice and clean, but he's already overslowing it at this point right now, because if you see, he's got the bike here, and he's going to have a look over his shoulder to see where Kyle is. So he's already kind of out of his game, I think, going in there. This was his plan all along again, and once again, Kyle Wyman jumps the dirt, and it's a replay of yesterday. If Herfoss goes through the chicane the way he normally does and just keeps his head down, he wins the race.
I also think he might have missed a gear, Jay.
Well, yeah,
because,
but you get thrown out of your rhythm, though.
You got thrown out of your rhythm. Yep. He looked around. He didn't have the drive. Plus, in that replay, Jay, it looked like both front and rear were locked up. Yep. He was leaving two black marks going into that chicane. Hey, regardless of that, it's a .137 margin of victory for Kyle Wyman, who was there when he needed to be, and he was able to pull it off and comes away with the double. When we come back, we're going to talk to Kyle and find out how that went for him.
As Kyle Wyman now comes around in the wheelie, celebrating a double win weekend for him. Roger, you were sitting here watching as Troy Herfoss had that mistake, and you said it, he lost it.
Yeah, he just, he's trying to build that gap to try to break the draft, and he had it, and he just got into the chicane a little bit deeper than he wanted to, because he was just trying to, once you kind of commit to leading out of that chicane, you're trying to put as much space as possible that you can, and he just got in a little bit deep. Really, the race came down to, you could just see in the background out of turn 6 on that last lap, Kyle had a big slide and almost got up into that air fence, and that's how Troy was able to get that little bit of a gap, and then he made that mistake, and he looked back and just kind of let Kyle even pull a little too, even when he seen Kyle there, just kind of let him pull too much out of that chicane. He's going to be disappointed, but his first time at Daytona, I bet next year if he comes back, but he doesn't make that mistake again.
No, and he knew coming in that it was going to be a challenge for him to figure out the draft, figure out this King of the Baggers, the bike itself, just the weight of it, and then you match that up to the nuances of this racetrack and all of the challenges ahead. But the top three, Kyle Wyman, Troy Herfoss, and James Rispoli, looking at the timing chart, I had to make sure that we were looking at the right race because it's the same results we had yesterday.
Yeah, and with Tyler O'Hara able to get some points after yesterday, he did get 10th place points, but for him, looks like he was struggling with something toward the end of that race, like with the front end. He kind of lost the front one time in turn one, and Hayden Gillum there. Cal Onsor, great ride by him. I mean, that mistake he got caught up with Hayden, that's the closest we've seen him toward the front.
Yeah, and with Travis Wyman and Rocco Landers being a little bit further back, and then Bobby Fong never even completing a lap. He's listed as a did not show. We're going to send it back next door.
Mission King of the Baggers coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. By Mission Foods, the world's leading brand for tortillas and wraps. And by Drag Specialties, an industry-leading distributor of aftermarket parts and accessories for Harley-Davidson and custom V-twin motorcycles.
Celebrations for the 33 Kyle Wyman, who ends up winning the race again. Herfoss and Rispoli in third. Factory Harley-Davidson does it again, and what better place to do it right here in Daytona Beach, Florida during Bike Week at Daytona International Speedway. Boy, Kyle must have seen that unfold in front of him and just been like, seriously, is this going to happen? But that's what .137 looks like. Rispoli just a second and a half back. Not sure what happened to Tyler O'Hara, but he finishes fourth. Hayden Gillum in fifth. Owen Sorg, a good ride for him in sixth. But let's get down to Hannah with our winner.
Kyle Wyman does the double here at Daytona. I know this track is really special for you, for Harley-Davidson, and for your family. Take us through the end of that race there. What did you see happening in front of you, and how did you work it to your advantage?
I was in survival mode on the last lap. I had an electrical gremlin pop up all of a sudden, and I lost my quick shifter, and the thing was making some weird noises, and I just was like, man, I just got to try to salvage something. And man, Troy's gonna hate to hear this, but he had a freaking mile, and he gave it to me. So, hey, we'll take it. That's Daytona, and man, I just can't thank the Harley-Davidson guys enough. I also want to thank Rockford Fosgate, Brembo, Mission Foods, Olin USA, all of the sponsors of the team, 6D helmets and Alpine Star Leathers for keeping me safe, and all these fans out here for sticking it out. We really appreciate you guys, and yeah, let's go to MotoGP. Let's go to COTA.
Kyle Wyman, today's Mission King of the Baggers race winner. Troy Herfoss, your second place finisher. 2 second-place finishes for you and your first ever weekend on the bagger. Take us through that last lap. What were you thinking there? Was it a mistake on your part? Was there something going on with the bike?
Yeah, it was my fault. I got some good advice. I've been getting good advice all weekend from from some really top riders, and that was the best advice I've had. I had the race possibly sewn up, and overshot the chicane. It was completely on me, so just really hard to swallow.
As tough as that might be, how are you feeling on the whole, your first weekend in MotoAmerica, 4 races?
I wouldn't want to be racing against me.
There you have it, guys. Troy Herfoss. Third place today, James Rispoli. James, take us through that race. You wanted to stick with that lead group, but kind of fell off there a little bit. What made the difference today?
Yeah, you know, we've been working on this factory Harley-Davidson the last couple nights. We didn't get warm up, so that was kind of a test for us in that. But, man, I'm just so pumped. You know, I want to win races, but we'll take 2 third places, third in the championship, you know, first weekend. We can build from this. I had a couple moments out there, and I was kind of struggling on the front end, but hats off to these guys, man. They rode a really good race. It was dicey in the beginning, but, you know, it kind of settled down. Kyle actually threw a heater in there and gapped me quite a bit, and I saw I gapped Tyler. And, I mean, this is what people want, you know, 2 factories going head-to-head. So that's what we're here, and, you know, Harley's 1-3, baby. Woo!
2 podiums on the weekend for you, James. Looking ahead to COTA in just a couple weeks here, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, we obviously need to find a little bit of pace for these guys, but it's Daytona. It's a totally different track. We'll go to COTA. We know Kyle's got an amazing setup there. If I can learn a little thing here and there and, you know, see if we can't get one more step up and go 1-2.
Thanks, James. Guys?
You gotta love the enthusiasm.
Yeah,
across the board.
All three of them had different types of interviews, and this place is special, and Troy doesn't have to worry about this place anymore. He's going to get back to business doing what we know he can do. Big congrats to this guy, 33, Kyle Wyman, coming in here and doing the double.
More from Daytona International Speedway when we return.
We're going to stay here and watch as the podium celebrations are going to unfold. But, Roger, I want to go back and digest some of those answers that we heard. There was a lot of good information there for Kyle Wyman. He won this race, but he did it in a mode where he was just trying to salvage something, proving that it's not always just about being good. You've got to have luck on your side.
A little bit of luck, and that's a lot that comes down to Daytona is having luck and putting a little pressure on the guy in front of you, closing that gap where Troy thought he was really close on that last toward the last half of that lap and made that mistake. And for Kyle, just probably couldn't believe his luck when he went through that chicane. And for Troy, you could just see it in his voice, his face. Just, I really like it when a rider takes ownership for his mistake. And he said that was on him. He made a mistake. He got in too deep. I bet he doesn't. That doesn't happen again. But you can see the look on his face. He's coming into these next couple races when they go to Coda, and he's going to be a tough guy to beat.
When he said, I wouldn't want to be racing against me, he looked into the camera, and I believed what it was that he was saying. I'm sure the rest of the competition is certainly taking note. I also love James Rispoli's words there, giving mention to the fact that his teammate Kyle Wyman, he has the information. He knows how to get around Coda. James is not out here saying that I'm the best guy. He's saying I'm out here to learn, and then I'm going to do something with that. We're going to send it right back next door to Greg and Jason.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Podium celebrations underway for Kyle Wyman. He definitely, with half a lap to go, didn't think he was going to win that one. But let's get to the highlights and take a look at how this one unfolded, Jake.
Yeah, crazy race as you see these guys get off the line and get started. It was the two factory Indians that would get to turn one first. Kyle Wyman would slot himself into second on the exit of turn one there, and then we had 6 riders at the front. These 2 guys at the front, though, Herfoss and Kyle, were trying to get away early. You're going to see Kyle get a big moment here in the chicane on this very first lap as he goes through it, gets that Harley all twisted up through the dirt, wheeling and all those things. And as they came across the line, it looked like those 2 might break away. But as you see, Tyler O'Hara, James Rispoli, Hayden Gillam's in that mix as well. Osorg was catching him, and then it was a 4-rider dice at the front. And as they came through on this lap here, you're going to see them go 3 wide as they come across. And Herfoss is just going to be there, or maybe it's O'Hara getting the late break, but it was a huge mistake by Troy Herfoss on the last lap, one that we wouldn't expect, and one that, man, the guy just owned up to in winner's circle. And it's going to be Kyle Wyman taking another win, and he actually looked really surprised to win that race too, didn't he?
He certainly did. And of course, it's 25 points for a win here in MotoAmerica. So with Kyle Wyman doing the double, he's got a solid 50. Herfoss with 10 behind, Rispoli 18 behind, as we get our first 2 races of 18 for the season. And talk about that, let's take a look at our schedule for Mission King of the Baggers. Next up, April 12th through the 14th, we're at Circuit of the Americas, Earn MotoGP. Then we go to Road Atlanta, Road America, Brainerd, Laguna, Mid-Ohio, Circuit of the Americas again, and New Jersey. Well, that was entertaining to say the least. 10th of a second margin of victory is always great for Hannah and Jason. I'm Greg. We'll see ya from Coda. Bye-bye.
And the celebrations are now in the closing phases here at Daytona International Speedway. Roger, Hayden, we had a fantastic weekend, 4 different categories. We had doubleheader weekends for the Mission King of the Baggers, for the Super Hooligans, and for the Twins Cup, the Bellissimoto Twins Cup. And then we also had the Daytona 200. When you look ahead, now that Daytona is behind us, you look ahead to the rest of the season. What do you take away from here?
I think a lot of guys kind of know that they have a month till Road Atlanta, and they have a lot of work to do. Some guys are a little bit